order. Felicia, I forgot, do I take a vote on that?
No.
Okay, so I've called the meeting to order.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read the governor's order. Due to the governor's recent order, all members of the Recreation and Parks Commission are participating virtually. For virtual meetings, commission members will be muted until asked to be heard. At that time, they will be unmuted and recognized. And when there is a vote, it will be necessary to take a roll call vote. A commission member will then be recognized by raising their hand and state their vote. Today's meeting is a public meeting. Per the notice, citizens can listen to the meeting if they contact the city manager's office to take the necessary arrangements. And the meeting is also being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel, which can be accessed via the city website. And a recording of today's meeting will be available by next Tuesday on the city's YouTube channel. Okay, and I'll go ahead and do roll. We have 2 commission members who are absent today. Dr. Tygo Guerra and also Cherie Ingram. So they will not be with us. Kathy Gondry.
Okay, so if I look over the agenda for today.
We got to do roll, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that was just, you were supposed to say here.
Oh, here. Sorry. Here, okay. Sorry.
It's okay. John Gunkel.
Here.
Sean Hawkins.
Here.
John France. John France. Okay. Bob Hartwell.
Here.
George Peterson.
Here.
Okay. Joe Cassidy.
Here.
Okay. Taylor Ansley.
Here.
Okay, and I believe we have one guest with us. Can you please state your name? If you're here, do we have any?
James.
I'm sorry?
Frank James.
Frank James, okay. Okay, all right. We do have quorum. And now, Kathy, if you want to go ahead and get us into business.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. Okay. So today we're going to look at our minutes, and I do want us to actually run our eyes over those minutes. Then William's going to talk about some parcels and whether we add them to the park system. We have a guest, I believe, Kelly Bennett. Is Kelly Bennett on?
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Kelly's going to talk in just a little bit. I'll give a brief update on the focus groups. And then the people that are in the focus groups can chime in. Then I think we have some open discussion and comments. We tried to put some time limits on it just because we have a lot to cover today. If we can't get through things within that time period, we may choose to take that as an action item and a follow-up item. Okay. So does anybody have anything else that we need to cover today on the agenda? Okay, so let's go through the minutes. So Felicia, you were showing us the February minutes, correct? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, can you scroll up just a bit? There we go. So we have, no, keep going. So we had the discussion item last time, which was reviewing the deferred maintenance study. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later on with one of our focus groups. There was an item about the Muddy Creek Greenway, and I wanted to kind of bring this to closure or more specifically identify action items that are really actionable action items. So what we talked about the last time, William shared the fact that after there's flooding, the city goes in and does some cleanup, that there have been some grading work that's happened. But the fact of the matter is that the Greenway was built in a floodplain. And the advantage to the city is that we, the majority of the time, have access to this beautiful Greenway. But there are times when it is not, parts of it are not accessible due to the flooding. So we as a commission, I think, should be clear what we actually expect or are asking the city to do, if anything else. We have the option of saying, we understand, we accept the fact that it's that it does flood. perhaps we should work on a communication message, but we've brought this up over and over again, so I'm trying to get some clarity on what we really need, if anything else.
Can I comment?
Sure.
I'm a little concerned about the way it's expressed in the minutes as far as my part of this was. Says I raised concerns, but doesn't tell what they were. And something about a team effort on maintenance. What I guess in terms of the minutes, I want to be sure that the expression is in there that there are problems that aren't going to be wiped away by sweeping away the water after the storms. There's posts missing, the parking lot is a mess. Those were the issues that I raised, and I heard a lot of talk about what might get done, but I didn't hear much commitment to what is going to get done. So that I'd like the minutes to kind of more reflect a little more specificity about the problems I'm having with how the Greenway is being treated.
Okay, we can make those changes.
Thank you.
Okay, so, but then my question is, when we make those changes, are we saying that we're done with this, or do we need to talk more about it?
I believe that Felicia will make the corrections, the changes to the minutes, submit those out for review, and then at our next commission meeting, you can approve the changes made to these minutes as well as the minutes for this meeting.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. All right, the next thing we covered, and again, I'm still going through last week's minutes or last month's minutes. We did talk about some focus groups that we set up, and I'm going to give an update on that a little bit later. And I also wanted to bring up the hobby park under the recreation maintenance updates. I believe this is now closed out. So I want to make sure that we maybe can modify the minutes to say that it is closed. So there was a concern, John Gunkel, I'm going to look at you, about where the trees were placed. I think that's all been reviewed. Everybody's happy. So we can close this out as anything that we talk about in the future. Is this true?
Well, I think we have an agreement about moving the trees. I don't know if they've been done yet or not, but I know that we do have an agreement about what should be done.
Okay, so should we put this as a follow-up item for a future meeting to say, yeah, they actually did what they said they were going to do, and then we close it?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, so Felicia, maybe you could have something called follow-up item, and we just track that and just remember to ask about it each month so we can finally close it when it's time to close it.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so anything else about the minutes that we wanted to ask for revisions? All right, and to William's point, we'll just look at that again next time and hopefully be able to approve those. Okay, so next on the agenda under the business section, we had the approval of the Remnant Gateway parcels. William, that's you?
Yes, Felicia, there we go. Southeast Gateway Ventures LLC owns 2 lots that are currently at the intersection of Walltown and South Main Street, and the tax pin numbers are located in the agenda item that you see in front of you. Felicia, if you can go to the map. There are 2 small parcels there that were still owned by Southeast Gateway. These 2 parcels are, if you were out there on the site, they're just south of the pedestrian bridge. They're at Main Street. That's part of our Salem Creek Greenway. These 2 smaller parcels currently are being mowed and maintained with the adjacent currently city-owned property. There is absolutely zero maintenance impact for the city to, or the Recreation and Parks Department to absorb these parcels as part of our inventory. they're one of the larger parcel. The majority of that particular parcel is down near the creek, and that smaller triangular piece is very close to a Duke power line. But those properties are currently being maintained and mowed by the city's vegetation management department. And it's my recommendation to the Recreation Parks Commission that we absorb these as part of our existing city property that surrounds these two parcels.
Okay, do any commission members have any questions or concerns about this?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The transmission line that passes through that area, is that on a different parcel? There's a huge tower there.
Duke Energy has an easement that follows, almost follows our Greenway parallel down through there. The Greenway does slightly zigzag underneath the power lines. Duke Power doesn't like for us to have greenways that run parallel to their power lines directly inside of their easement. But these parcels are also part of that. I believe that smaller parcel is part of the Duke Energy easement that they have through there.
Okay, so is there any part of the easement that's on the larger piece?
I would have to actually look at a map that shows their easement. I do not believe that the larger parcel is part of that easement, and if it is, it's a very small portion.
Okay, so the tower, there's a huge tower right there. That's on the parcel that's slightly over to the southeast. That's not part of this transaction?
Yes.
Okay, and there's a triangular piece just to the north that's part of the larger parcel. Who's keeping that?
That's already a city-owned parcel.
Okay, so the whole thing will be city-owned?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
John?
I have one question. So the advantage to basically accepting that is that would prevent any other kind of development on that piece of property, right? And that'd be one reason to do it.
Yeah, it's so that it's currently being maintained and almost operated as though it's city-owned land already. It's just kind of doing it in a more formal manner, is accepting those two smaller pieces. But to your point, yes, it would prohibit someone coming in and doing something on those parcels outside of our ability to stop them. It's currently being maintained as though it is city property. It's being mowed by vegetation management. You know, when they go in the field, they don't have access to these maps. They're probably under the impression that all of it's already city-owned property.
Thank you.
Joe?
William, what would Recreation and Parks use the land for?
Right now, just maintaining it as open space. We have no plans to do anything with this property. Right now it's being used as almost like a green buffer between South Main Street and our Greenway, and it will continue to be maintained as such.
If the city doesn't own it, why are we maintaining it?
Because they don't. When our mowers and our mowing team goes out and they mow, they're probably not. In a lot of instances, they're part-time staff or temporary staff, and they're not going to be privy to breaking up these individual lots. From a visually, it would just make sense for that crew to go out and they would just mow that entire area up to the top of the stream bank like they have been doing in the past. It's such a small, the parcels are so small, it would just make sense for us the city to just mow that. Visually, it impacts the Greenway and the curb appeal for the Greenway. If those areas were allowed to grow up and be unmanaged, if the city weren't maintaining them, it would become unsightly, and then we would probably get asked to maintain them anyway, or at least mow them. But from the recreation maintenance's standpoint, there is no impact for on these parcels being added to our park system.
It's okay. So I need a clarification because I've got it pulled up on Google Maps and I'm looking at the map that you've got here. To the right side of these two parcels, it looks like there's a road coming through there. That's actually the Salem Creek Greenway, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the land is butting up against land. It's not an island surrounded by roads.
No, it's already completely surrounded by existing city-owned property.
I think, if I may, it was earlier surrounded by roads, but I think the road was discontinued that you're talking about, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, South Main Street followed the existing pedestrian bridge, the old South Main Street. That bridge was actually a vehicular bridge, and so the alignment of South Main Street, as Mr. Harwell mentioned, did change many years ago, and this is that's what created allowed the city to come in and create Central Park and those tennis courts, as well as build get the Greenway underneath Main Street and continue on towards Saddle Lake.
I know it's not much, but is the city concerned about the loss of the tax revenue?
No, the tax revenue is
just under $400 a year.
Yeah, it's not going to have any impact at all on majorly for tax revenue for the city.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or concerns? Okay, so William, what I think I've heard is that your department is recommending that this land be acquired. The advantage is that it will protect it from other development. There's minimal loss of tax revenue, and there's no impact to ongoing maintenance because the city's already maintaining that land. And so you are asking the commission whether we support this recommendation. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So do I have a motion to accept this or to agree with the recommendation?
I'll motion it.
I'll second. I second it.
All in favor?
Can you guys please state your name for the vote? So I have John Gungle, and then who was the second?
Sean Hawkins.
Okay, go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I guess instead of all in favor, can anybody opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
That was Joe Cassidy, right?
Correct.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Okay, so that means that everybody else is in support. I support it, just for.
Okay. The motion is carried.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to move to agenda item number 3, which is the public art project by Kelly Bennett. Kelly, floor is yours.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much. And
I'm going to go ahead and make you the host.
thank you.
Oh, there we go. Now you should be able to share.
All right, I have a couple public art projects to tell you all about. The first one is called Jukebox Therapy.
Kelly, sorry to interrupt, but very quickly, can you tell the commission what your role is with the City County Planning Department to kind of provide some context on why we're bringing this item to them today?
Sure, sorry. So I am a project planner with the City County Planning Department, and one of my roles is to manage the City County Public Art Commission. Couple or I should say last month, the Public Art Commission approved a project, the first one that I'm going to describe here, Jukebox Therapy, which is proposed to go on parkland and then possibly in some bus shelters as well. And then I have another project that I'm just going to follow up with you really quickly after this project. Let's see here. So this project, it's really a small footprint type of project. The artist's name is Rhythm Badell, and she's a student at Wake Forest. And this project started on campus there as part of a class project, a public art class project. And she'd like to expand it around the city. It's a temporary project, would last 1 year, and it would be paid for by the Public Art Commission. And it includes, for the parks portion, it's two boxes with a QR code on them, and it's kind of a virtual art piece. It's meant to connect people through music. The boxes would be put along Salem Lake Trail, and then the person would have their phone with them, and they could scan the QR code and add a song to a playlist. And the people who are participating in this would be sharing songs with each other. So they might share, on the Salem Lake Trail, they might share some relaxing songs that they feel like go along well with their experience along the trail, or they might share something a little faster if they're runners or they're out there exercising. And it brings them to a website, and people have make playlists together and share these songs. So the artist is also looking to put these in bus shelters. Wouldn't be a box in a bus shelter. It would just be a vinyl application to the inside of the shelter. And so it's a temporary project. It would last about a year. And, it's just something that the Public Art Commission thought was interesting and would like to support.
Hey, Kelly, I have a question.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thanks for presenting this. So more than anything else, I'm kind of curious, where are the songs coming from? Is this have some kind of a partnership with one of the streaming services, or how does that work?
Yeah, the Spotify will be the streaming service that people would listen to. So that's a free app. Nobody would have to sign up, for a paid subscription or anything to listen to.
Right.
But they would have to have a smartphone, or at least a phone with a web browser.
Cool, thanks.
Kelly, if I could make a quick suggestion, if you bring up the first slide that has the QR code, I think the commission members can actually scan that on their phone to see it. If they'd like to, just through the screen. That might be helpful.
Yeah, that might be.
So do you have to listen to this? You can just select which songs you want to listen to? Is that or the song or the playlist that you want to listen to?
Yes. So you can listen, or you can participate. So I just brought this up. That's great. Yeah, I just did it from my computer. And I clicked the listen button, and there's one for the Wake Forest campus one with some songs on it, and then I hit the participate button, and you can kind of search through a song title or artist name. And then the artist actually is on the approving end of this. So she agreed not to, have songs with profanity and stuff like that added to the playlist. So it does indeed work. So.
Kelly, I've seen these on campus. I also have to say, I've worked on other campuses, some that were the STEM institutions with computer science majors who would have seen these boxes and then as a prank gone out and switched the QR code to direct folks elsewhere. If we're putting these out in public locations, any concern that somebody might think it would be funny to switch out the QR code?
I suppose that's a risk that I hadn't considered. I thought more of just the box being stolen or disappearing, but it is a a temporary, very, very inexpensive kind of project. So if it disappears, we won't lose too much sleep over it, but we'll try to anchor it down. As far as putting a new QR code on it, maybe we'll need to just kind of be aware. If the artist says, "I haven't gotten any songs in the last month," and might ask her to go out and check it out and see if it's been switched out. But clever prank.
And I will say, all a QR code does is just cause your browser to open a link. So I mean, even if your flyer had a URL on it instead of a QR code, somebody could also do the same thing and replace the URL and change it to whatever they want it to be. So I mean, the risk is pretty much the same if you have a link, an actual URL printed out, or a QR code or whatever. But you're right, it is actually, I guess, something to think about. But hopefully somebody won't do that, or at least won't do anything too nefarious with it.
One of the things that we could do to kind of help combat that is, we have paper where we can keep, if that became an issue or began to become an issue, that we could print out replacement QR codes to place over anything that had been changed at these locations. But it wouldn't be the first time or the most mischievous thing that people have done in our park system, but there are ways that we can manage that.
And if there aren't any more questions about this project, I can go on to another project I've talked to you about in the past, which is the Winston-Salem Portrait Project. It's been in the works for maybe 3 years now, and it's about to be unveiled on April 10th, and it's nine pieces of artwork around the city, and you agreed to host 4 of those pieces at different recreation center sites. There's going to be 8 two-dimensional pieces with portraits of people from around Winston-Salem. And those will be at the park sites, and then 2 YMCAs, Boys and Girls Club, and one of the library branches. And then the 3-dimensional piece will be next to the Strollway Bridge, near the corner of Liberty and First Streets downtown. So that's going to be installed in the next few weeks and unveiled April 10th. With a virtual unveiling. Since there were so many people involved in this, they're going to kind of have timed meet and greets so that they don't have too large a gathering at the sculpture site. They'll do the unveiling in a video, and a lot of people get to participate in that. And then to go along with that, on the other side of the bridge, there's going to be a temporary exhibit that project participants also took photos, and those are going to be displayed on these cubes. I believe 4 or 5 of them will be along the strollway, and that will be displayed from April to July.
So Kelly, I have a, oh, you're never mind. Keep going.
Oh, man, that was it. I just thought it says questions.
Yeah, so my question is, where is this being communicated to the community? And the second part to that question is, how are you collecting any feedback, whether people like it, don't like it, want more, want less?
Well, it's going to be communicated through city marketing and communications. And then, you know, I guess we'll hear about it through the Public Art Commission. We'll hear about it through the city's, you know, social media and things like that. The project itself is on, you know, Instagram and Facebook, and you know, there were, you know, more than 100 people involved with the actual project. So through their, you know, through their own social networks as well, people will hear about the project.
So the Public Art Commission, you're saying, so the Public Art Commission is a Winston-Salem commission?
Correct.
Kind of like we're a commission.
Yep, exactly.
From Winston-Salem. And that commission has an Instagram and a Facebook?
Well, this project has, the Winston-Salem Portrait Project has its own social media accounts. Those artists put that up to kind of keep track of the project. It has its own website that kind of shows the progress of it and things like that.
Okay. Any expectations on what this is going to mean to the park system after the project is over?
Well, these cubes here will be coming down in the summer, and I hope that the main sculpture is draws people out to look at for years to come. It's, you know, it'll really be a time capsule for people in that it kind of shows, you know, the many different people. You know, there are only 59 people on the actual sculpture, but, you know, as time goes on and those people are kind of locked in place, I think it'll be interesting to see some of the younger people come back and say, oh, that was me 20 years ago on this sculpture. So should be interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else have any questions for Kelly? No? Okay, well, Kelly, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today. Appreciate it. William, did you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I just, these types of projects we've worked on with Kelly on in the past, and, you know, with Winston-Salem being the city of arts and innovation, you know, and as widespread as our parks are, whenever there's an opportunity to kind of showcase local artwork or to kind of celebrate the artistic component that Winston-Salem is able to provide to the community, we'd like to participate with them and provide locations where this art can be displayed. And with the new strollway recently being completed, it will allow people to kind of get out on that new portion of the strollway, see some of this artwork, and enjoy being able to get outdoors for a change, seeing how we've all been kind of cooped up in the house since COVID. But it's one of many projects that I think we've worked with Kelly on in the past, and we'll continue to work with them moving forward. And Kelly, would like to say thank you for taking time out of your day to come and present this to the Recreation and Parks Commission. And if there are any follow-up questions from the commission, Kelly, even from the members that aren't here today, we can get those in writing to Kelly and then get responses back out for the next meeting.
All right. Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Okay.
Kathy, I actually have one other item on business that literally, while we've been in this meeting, need to make you all aware of. It's not going to require a vote, but it's something that we will probably be bringing back to the commission within the next few months, but would like to kind of put it on your radar now. It's actually a project that stems from our 2014 GO bond referendum, which included a pocket park, creating a pocket park for the Georgetown community, which is located very close to Renolda Road. At the time, we looked at various currently city-owned properties. Felicia, if you don't mind, could you give me control so I can share my screen and show them this piece of property briefly?
Yeah, I think Kelly still has it. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
So William, you're saying that you want to share this, like kind of give us a preview, but you're going to come back at another meeting when we would vote or?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things that one of the requests from this area that you see here I zoned out too far. This area that you see here is considered the Georgetown Neighborhood area this is Renolda Road. This is a Georgetown area, and many of the residents reached out to Mayor Pro Tem Adams many years ago because they wanted a park that was closer to their neighborhood without having to get out, without having the kids from the neighborhood being able to have to travel out or anywhere near Renolda Road to be able to enjoy a park facility. And we looked at several existing city-owned park properties in this area. And recently we're able to get in touch with this particular landowner, Harold B. and Brenda Farrington, and the city is currently negotiating with them to purchase this particular property to create a pocket park there for the Georgetown community. Just want to make sure that this is on your radar, but I will be coming back to you once we finish all of the due diligence to bring this as well as any site information from for this particular park development. Bring that to you probably within the next few months or so. Kurt Buerling, the real estate administrator with the city of Winston-Salem, has requested a 6-month extension. I believe that Mayor Pro Tem Adams would like to do some more community engagement and community involvement and looking at some of the demographics in the area for the neighborhood to make sure that whatever's being developed fits the needs of the community. And so until all of that due diligence is
I lost you, William.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams wanted to kind of poll the demographics of the community to ensure that whatever proposed improvements for the new park would meet the needs of the community. There's a large senior population. We want to kind of look at the demographics for the children in the neighborhood, which age groups, so that the playground equipment is age appropriate, and a few other things. But it's a pocket park. It was approved by the voters as part of the 2014 GO bond referendum. This is one of the few remaining projects from that initial bond referendum in 2014. But the residents from the community requested the park, and we've been working with them to identify a site, a potential site for the park ever since. And so this particular parcel was identified, but as we move further along in the process with due diligence and looking at the demographics of the community, we may be coming back within the next few months for an actionable item to request that we look at adding this particular parcel and the development for the Georgetown Pocket Park added to our park inventory.
Okay. I know I have a couple questions, but before I go, anybody else have questions?
No, I'll be interested in seeing the information prior to next week's meeting.
Right, next month's. So, William, I know in the past we talked about the impact on, it's all about money, right? So the funding of this, where does that funding come from? How does it affect, and these are not for you to answer right now, but when you come back maybe, where does the funding come from? How does that affect the deferred maintenance where there's already a deficit for funding? And then ongoing, how is it going to impact your budget and maintaining it in the future. So those are just some questions that kind of come up top of mind.
I'll make sure I have as much of that information readily available to discuss whenever I'll bring this item back for an official actionable item for the commission.
Great, great. All right. Anybody have anything else on that? Okay, so next, just a quick focus group update. I know the last time we met, we talked about establishing 3 different focus groups. And the first one is the commission role and responsibility. I'm not sure, Felicia, whether you can share that, the agenda, so people can see that. So John Gunkel and I are part of that. We met with John Lawson, William, and Tasha, and we went through all of the documentation, which was the ordinance, which describes what our role and responsibility are. And it was pretty clear that the documentation is pretty outdated. There's some things in there that really aren't relevant any longer. So John was going to take that and revise it. He was also going to read through the other commissions and how their ordinances read and try to kind of just update that and make it more relevant to what we do. He mentioned that he has several contracts that he's working on. So he originally was going to share that with us this month. It's been put off until at least April and potentially even May. Now, I have a question, because in that roles and responsibilities, and this is for you commission members. So the question is, in that document, it says what is required or how to do a vote. I guess I'd say that. And that a majority is what passes the vote. So in our case, there's 11 members, so it would have to be 6 people would be a majority. So the question sort of is, well, what do we vote on? And what do we not vote on? So historically, or since I've been on the commission for the last 3 years, what we have voted on is acquisitions and the park names. So those are the things that are voted on, and everything else is that William comes to share is informational. So I just am asking you guys to think about, or even share with me right now, what other items do you think we should be asking to vote on?
So, Kathy, don't forget it's not just the buying or purchasing a park property, it's also selling or exchanging park property as well.
Thank you.
Kathy? I think relevant to your question is what I think is about to be a suggestion that there's going to be another working group related to contract administration. And the issue as to what the commission votes on and doesn't vote on is very, for me, is very critical about contract administration in terms of what the commission's role is in that, overseeing that, because that's been significantly missed in my view up until now. So I raise this now because I don't know, it may be premature, but if you're going to suggest that we're going to have a contract working group, then that would mean that the answer to the question as to the extent of the role of the commission in that might be at some point next time or the time after.
Right. So sorry, is somebody going to say something? So there's been some talk about the contracts, and when contracts get delayed or they cost more than what we originally expect, or some of the deferred maintenance is actually done under another project. And, so how does all that contract negotiation, what oversight or what value can the commission bring to that process? So that's kind of the question. So we've thought about maybe we should have another focus group that just talks about contracts and what our role, if any, should be. So if anybody's interested in helping on that focus group, let me know, and we could probably set up a couple sessions with William and Tasha. Yes, sir.
That may be something that is part of John Lawson's update to bring back, because there aren't any contracts that we enter into in the Recreation and Parks Department that he does not review first. Even registration forms, basic things that we have out on the internet are reviewed by John in the city attorney's office with the city.
Okay.
And there may be an ordinance that allows, I know that there's some sort of ordinance, I can't put my finger on it right now, but I believe that there is some sort of ordinance that allows the city manager to enter into contracts up to a particular dollar amount. After they exceed that dollar amount, then certain contracts, I believe it's up to $100,000, and after that, those contracts require city council approval. But that may be something that John can provide some insight on, because his office is directly involved with that, especially if it involves any particular ordinance.
Okay. So maybe I should just follow up with John and ask him that he could help, specifically tell him that we're interested in that and that he give us an update.
Yeah, I can reach out to him and let him know that it came up as a question as part of this meeting, and make sure that he's prepared to provide an update whenever he comes back, whether that's April or whether that's May, that he's able to kind of come back and provide some information with that. If he's able to provide it prior or able to provide that information to us separately, we can get that out to an email to you and the rest of the commission members even prior to those meetings.
Yeah, that'd be good. And Felicia, could you mark this down? I think we decided that we're going to call them follow-up items. If you could just make that a follow-up item that we're interested in. What is the commission's role as far as contract negotiations and tracking and that kind of thing going forward, and that William and John Lawson, one of the both of them, will come back and help us with that.
Yeah, I have it down already.
Okay. Anything else on that update? John Gunkel, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to it?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Joe?
On the roles and responsibilities, I guess I would be interested in getting clarification on what role responsibility the commission has, if any, in terms of finances. Are we responsible for reviewing proposed operating budgets, proposed expenditures out of bond funds? This dovetails into the kind of the deferred maintenance assessment, and it's like, okay, how are resources getting allocated and prioritized?
Good.
Yeah, I think, Kathy, I think that's really important. And I think these lists that we haven't really discussed specifically today, because they're a big deal, that they were included, as I understand, it came with my agenda anyway, the so-called stoplight explanations, and also this long list of
yeah. I'm afraid we're going to run out of time to talk about them. William and Felicia really wanted to be able to go through them.
I'm not suggesting we go through them now, but we will have to go through them at some point, because there are definitely issues there. So, okay.
Okay, so I've heard two items that we want John Lawson to help us with. It's just the whole contract management piece, and then on another level, the finances in general. Where do we play? How can we add value? How can we help the city with any of this? Any other thoughts? If you think of something later, I think you know how to get me. Okay, deferred maintenance assessment. The really quick and dirty on this is there's a recognition that better information is needed. William and his team have understood that, and they've actually engaged I think it's called the GIS department, on helping build a system that helps them track this information. The data that's in the deferred maintenance assessment was a snapshot in time, and it's really difficult. Williams told me that he actually has to go out park by park and report by report to consolidate and pull this information together. So there is a recognition that better information is needed. We've had a difficult time just kind of trying to reconcile any of the numbers. William and Felicia, we need, we've requested a follow-up meeting on that one, and that has not happened yet. So I'm assuming that will get on our calendars pretty soon.
Yeah, well, I believe after we met, the deferred maintenance assessment it's almost like taking a picture of, like you mentioned, almost like taking a picture, a snapshot in time of the status of our park system, and so that we could have a better idea of where we need to request funding, what items need to be addressed, so on and so forth. Given that the maintenance is, like overall, the maintenance for our entire park system, we're responsible for about a third of that, and that we rely on working with other city departments to pull all that information together. The city does not have and did not have a system to record or compile every dollar spent in recreation in terms of maintenance, and have it broken down based on how the deferred maintenance breaks down to 4 different categories, which were parks, pools, recreation centers, and then the golf courses. And so we're having to basically create that from scratch. Now, we do have within our department a GIS administrator. His name is Josh Billings. He is extremely talented, and he's been working very, very hard on creating not just a deferred maintenance dashboard, because we're several years beyond the actual publishing of the deferred maintenance assessment, and there are current needs and issues that we have at certain parks and greenways in our park system that aren't even identified in the deferred maintenance assessment. And so we thought that it would be better to develop a system where we can better track the overall maintenance that's occurring in our park system, how it relates to the deferred maintenance assessment, how the improvements that are being made to the park system from a maintenance standpoint, how those are going to affect our park scores, figuring out what the algorithm is so that those scores can continually be made, be updated, and then provide at least a quarterly report to the commission on basically the status of our park system from a maintenance standpoint.
So, right. And so we had documented several things that we wanted. And again, I'm thinking that our next step was scheduling a meeting, William, with you and Tasha and Joe, Bob, myself, and you just said the man's name, the GIS.
Josh Billings.
Guy, Josh. So is that happening?
He is still building the system. It's I believe at the meeting, Kathy, we talked, it may be April or even May before we get the entire system built. We're having to build it from scratch, and but we are making some progress on it. But I don't think that we'll have something ready to show until at least our May meeting.
Okay. Well, I'll follow up with you on that, because I thought we were all going to talk before then, but let me follow up with you on that, William, afterwards.
So we can meet and kind of give you a progress update, but the actual system for it to go live, something that we can begin to report from, probably won't be complete until at least mid-April or May.
Okay. Well, that's great news. All right. And then the third focus group has to do with community outreach, and that, I don't know that that group has met yet. That's John, Sean, and George Peterson. Felicia, what's happening with that one?
They have not met yet, but they will hopefully get scheduled sometime this week.
So do you have, because we have them all on the phone right now, do you have time slots that they could tell you when they're available?
No, I'll reach out to them after the meeting because we're almost out of time.
And the other part of it is that I believe that you guys requested to have someone from marketing department there. So we want to make sure that we're able to get them when they have some availability with their schedule as well.
Right, that's what I was thinking. If Felicia had that right now, then she could ask them.
Oh, no, we're gonna, it's either gonna be Ed McNeil, the director for our marketing and communications department, or Frank Elliott, who's his number 2.
Okay.
We're gonna reach out to see what availability, or both of them, but we'll reach out to see what availability they have and get that meeting scheduled.
Okay. All right, and so we have 5 minutes left, and what I had hoped we could do, William, was for you to walk through the stoplight report with us. We're not going to have time to do that. Has everybody run your eyes over it?
Are there any specific questions that stand out that I could answer specifically for park projects?
I'd like to make a suggestion, Kathy, on that.
Uh-huh.
I think there are too many questions for 5 minutes. That's just my sense. There's questions I have. And I'm not sure how to handle that. Maybe that's first up next time.
Well, another thought is, can we just schedule a special meeting in 2 weeks? This same time slot 2 weeks from now?
Oh,
Make it a formal, Felicia, you'd have to do your thing and make it known to the public.
I see Joe's question. Joe asks, could the funding sources be identified? All of the projects that you see, probably with the exception of Long Creek, and I'm not sure about the Liberty Plaza Caladium or the bankruptcy court property acquisition, all of those other projects come from the 2018 bond referendum. And so all of the funding sources for those are all the same.
okay, but the questions aren't just about the funding sources. So,
No, I was referencing the question that Joe posted in the chat for the meeting.
okay.
So let me ask again, can we meet in 2 weeks so that you guys can go through this with us? We can look at let's look at the calendars and see if, so you're talking about a meeting on the 16th? That's my question, so commission members, you guys too, tell me, is this same time slot on the 16th, does that work for everybody? And then we could ask William to just go through this list with us. If you have specific questions, maybe you can document them and send them to William. That way he has them ahead of time.
Yeah, it would be helpful. I mean, to go through every single project on this list with various questions about each one meeting wouldn't be enough time to go through them all. It would be my suggestion to the commission that if you have very specific questions, to send those to either you, Kathy, or Felicia, so that we can compile a list so that the majority of the questions we have an opportunity to answer prior to that meeting. I don't want to right now commit to the meeting in 2 weeks, but I think it's possible. But I need to verify. There's some things I just need to verify before. I don't want to get it scheduled. And then there's certain ways that we have to go about making sure that it gets scheduled properly.
Okay, I think 2 weeks is plenty of time as far as it being a public meeting, but yeah, by all means.
We'll double check with the city secretary's office and make sure that we are following all the rules.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're following all the rules, that we aren't doing anything wrong. So
yeah, I appreciate that.
But it would help if there are some questions specifically related to the items on here in the stoplight report, to maybe send those questions in with the title of the project is probably the subject line, and then ask questions 1, 2, or 3, however many questions you have. That way we can begin to prepare as many responses as we can. Because I think to kind of go through these and verbally discuss them in one meeting, I don't know if it would be enough time.
There's a lot on there.
Yeah, and the recreation and park projects such as Bowman Gray and the Liberty Street Plaza Caladium and the bankruptcy court acquisition. Those are projects that Recreation and Park staff are not maintaining. And there's even a question of why some of them may be listed as Parks and Rec projects. So, I would have to make sure that whoever's managing those projects will be available so we can reach out to them to get the updates that you need.
Right. Okay, so you guys are going to get your questions to Felicia by the end of the week. And then William and Felicia will work on scheduling something on the 16th. And if for some reason that doesn't work, maybe you could make it the 23rd. I'm just looking at this same time slot, thinking Tuesdays at noon works some of the time. Hopefully it'll work all the time.
Okay. We'll reach out to the city secretary's office and verify that we can do that and make sure we're doing it the right way. We'll let you know if the 16th doesn't work, then we'll find another date that does work.
Okay. Felicia, can you let us know what are the follow-up items that you documented? And you guys, listen, if you have something else that you think we need follow-up on, let us know.
Kathy, I have a quick item I just wanted to mention and could be maybe flagged for a future meeting, or I could follow up separately with William and Felicia. I was made aware of a petition circulating that has about 1,500 signatures related to the availability of disc golf courses in our public park system. And I obviously know funding is at a premium. I'll post a link to the petition in the chat. I'm not involved with this group in any way. I was just made aware of it by folks I know who are, and there have even been some folks who've expressed an interest in trying to secure some private funding for the disc golf holes and things like that, if there's any interest in the Parks Department. So I don't know, William, if you all are aware of this, or if there's any follow-up I could help with, with this group.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the group that's been requesting this, and it started with part of the discussion for the development at Long Creek. It's not the first that we've heard of this. I'm aware that there was a petition circulating. They're doing what they need to do to get the support from City Council to get the funding to move forward with that. We've already identified a few parks where we feel that they could go and be used well, and so I'm familiar with it.
Taylor,
thank you.
Taylor, I'll also mention that the homeowners associations that are joining Long Creek are also aware of it, and they've scrutinized the list, and the majority of the folks who have signed are not tax-paying citizens of Winston-Salem. A lot of them are out of states that just happen to be disc golf enthusiasts.
Yeah, I'm familiar. The change.org is not necessarily a scientific method for gathering signatures. I just wanted to kind of raise it because it has been
it's something to be reviewed very carefully, in my view. Kathy, are you just taking a couple of last-minute questions? Or
we are 3 minutes past. Is everybody still going to stay on? Okay, go ahead.
These are two quickies. Is there any record kept of these public engagement sessions that sometimes happen with park acquisition? There were some at Long Creek. There may well be one, from what I've heard, at Georgetown. Is there any record of those meetings and who was there?
Yes, typically those records are kept by the community assistance liaisons for the council members in the wards where those particular projects are being held. If they're specific park-related projects, such as we held a series of public meetings for Salem Lake, the quarry, Winston Lake, we have records of those meetings. But whenever there's a public meeting, the CALs, community assistance liaisons for the council members in those wards, keep track and keep a record of the sign-in sheets and who attended the meetings, what dates and times, and so forth. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a particular person who's responsible for community assistance, or should one contact the council person in whose district the park is located?
Probably the easiest thing to do is to reach out to, I think on the city's website, the community assistance liaisons for the particular council members are listed there on the city's website. If you want, I can get Felicia to send an email link to that particular page that has that information. The easiest thing to do is to reach out to the CAL for that council person, and then they will get back to you.
Okay, thank you. If you have a time to send the link, that'd be great, but I understand what has to happen. The last thing is, I've been chasing the conservation easement for Long Creek for a long time. Is it out in space somewhere? Why is it we can't find that?
All right. Let me explain this relationship. When the city purchased the property at Long Creek, the city purchased all of the property with the exception of any of the property that was located within the floodplain. The conservation fund bought the floodplain portion of Long Creek. And they worked, that was an entirely separate closing that the city was not involved in. As part of what the agreement was, and this is the way the conservation fund works, they will purchase property for a future conservation easement, and then it typically will apply for grants such as Clean Water Management Trust Fund grants or other federal grants, LWCF or other grants, to get reimbursed for their purchase price of that property. So the agreement with the city and the conservation fund is that the conservation fund was going to purchase the floodplain portion of Long Creek. The city would purchase the remaining portions, the remaining property outside of the floodplain at Long Creek. Knowing that the city, with the assistance from the conservation fund, would apply for a Clean Water Management Trust Fund grant for the amount of the purchase price that the conservation fund used to purchase the floodplain portions at Long Creek. And so we applied for that, the city applied for that grant, the city received that grant. The city is preparing to close out the grant and go through all the closing procedures of the grant. Once the city receives the funding from the Clean Water Management Trust Fund, we will then buy the property back, the floodplain portion of Long Creek back from the conservation fund, with the stipulations that it will be preserved as a conservation easement. So the actual easement itself is not in place. We're getting close to closing it out. I believe our closing date is towards the end of May. And so here very shortly, we'll be closing on that property, do the exchange with the conservation fund, and then the city of Winston-Salem would own all of the property there at Long Creek.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
I believe Felicia has the names of the community assistance liaisons on the screen with their phone numbers. We'll get that link emailed out to you.
Yeah, I'm going to email that right now.
But these are the cows, and then if you reach out to them, they're very diligent about responding, and they will get back to you very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Taylor. So any other questions, comments? So the follow-up items, Felicia, what follow-up items did you write down for us?
So there's Happy Park, also a second meeting for the deferred maintenance. We're going to get questions regarding the stoplight report. Also, we are going to address the minutes and get those revised to bring back for next week. And then also, we're going to speak with John Lawson about setting up a separate group for contracts and contract approvals. And then that is it for now. Did I miss anything?
So what I had was that John Lawson was to kind of give him a heads up that the commission wants clarification on our role with contracts and our role in reviewing finances.
Right, we're gonna double check with him and see if it's possible to have like a subgroup, correct?
Okay. Yeah. And then you were gonna do a March, I'm sorry, you may have said this, but a March 16th follow-up on the stuff like that. Okay.
Yes, for the special meeting.
Great.
Yep, and you guys are gonna send me questions before the end of the week?
Have any follow-up things that we missed?
No.
Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
All right.
Second. All in favor? That was John Gunkel that seconded.
Okay. Yeah, we are adjourned. Thank you guys.
Okay, bye.